Marks & Spencer nearly lost its clothing business to its own food halls. (2016) Marks & Spencer shuttered 50 clothing departments in just 12 months. A retail empire that once dressed one in every 10 Britons was now down to 8% and falling fast. But walk into any M&S that year and you'd see something strange. The food hall packed with shoppers, while the clothing aisles stood eerily quiet. For over a century, M&S made one simple promise. Quality you could trust, priced fairly for what you got. Not luxury, not disposable fashion, the reliable middle ground. But by the late 1990s, that promise was unraveling fast. Next was stealing their customers. Supermarket brands were eating their lunch. And then came the damning 1999 Sunday Times expose that revealed the shocking truth. M&S had stopped looking at what shoppers were actually buying. Instead, they were designing today's collections based on what sold 3 seasons ago. In fashion, that's not just a mistake, it's a death sentence. Imagine walking into your trusted store, only to find it's become a time capsule of trends you've already moved on from. The numbers told a brutal story. In just 4 years, M&S watched a billion-pound profit empire crumble to 145 million, an 85% freefall that sent shockwaves through British retail. Imagine, every year, another chunk of that dominance simply vanished. Panic set in. Leadership revolving door, store shutters slamming, desperate product refreshes. Then came the Hail Mary, George Davies and Per Una in 2001. For a brief moment, it worked. Customers returned. The press softened. But here's what nobody wanted to admit. Per Una was a bandage on a bullet wound. Because the real question haunting the boardroom wasn't, what should we sell? It was far more existential. Who even are we anymore? And that question? Still unanswered. Between 2007 and 2017, M&S burned through 5 CEOs in 10 years. 5 different visions. Steve Rowe's 2016 Investor Day statement is worth quoting directly. He told analysts, "We have too many options, and we are not clear enough about who we are dressing." That single admission became the frame for what followed. But here's what the headlines missed. While clothing was collapsing, M&S Food was quietly printing money. Through the chaos of the 2000s, past the 2008 crash, into the 2010s, one half of the business was actually winning. Then 2016 changed everything. Suddenly, M&S Simply Food stores started appearing everywhere you traveled. Motorway services, train stations, airports. November 2016. M&S drops a bombshell. We're closing stores. Headlines scream failure. Analysts predict collapse. But here's what everyone missed. Buried in the fine print was something completely different. The 2019 annual report revealed something unsettling. A retailer caught between 2 worlds. While M&S still commanded £10.4 billion in revenue, their core clothing division was bleeding down 2% year-on-year. For a brand that once defined British style, these weren't just numbers, they were warning signs that the empire was cracking. The Ocado joint venture, announced in February 2019, is probably the single most discussed element of the recovery story, and also the one most prone to oversimplification. The investment carried obvious risk. M&S had no experience operating at scale in online grocery. Ocado's own technology platform had suffered a significant warehouse fire in Andover in 2019, which disrupted deliveries for several weeks and underlined the operational fragility of highly automated fulfillment. On clothing, the range edit that began in 2016 had a visible effect in specific categories by 2019. The knitwear and occasion wear lines, where M&S had retained the strongest residual customer loyalty, showed better like-for-like performance than the broader clothing range. Stuart Machin replaced Steve Rowe as chief executive in May 2022. Machin had previously run the M&S food business and was credited internally with much of the food division's operational consistency during the transformation period. The clothing recovery accelerated between 2021 and 2023 in ways that were not predicted by most retail analysts. M&S Clothing and Home reported like-for-like sales growth of 6.5% in the half-year to October 2022 and 11.5% in the half-year to October 2023, according to the company's half-year trading statements. The strongest case against reading this as a straightforward recovery is structural. M&S operates in a British retail environment that has contracted significantly around it. The food business faced a different test in 2021 and 2022: cost inflation. The employee picture during the transformation period is worth examining. M&S employed around 78,000 people in the UK at the start of the store transformation program in 2016. The question of whether M&S has resolved its long-running clothing identity problem or simply reduced the visible symptoms of it is one the evidence can partially answer but not close. In the year to March 2024, M&S Clothing and Home reported its highest annual revenues in at least 6 years, with the business contributing over £3.7 billion to group revenue, according to the company's full-year results published in May 2024. There are two unresolved questions that the current financial results do not answer. The first is demographic. M&S's clothing customer base skews older than that of most of its direct competitors. The brand has not demonstrated, in published data, that it has meaningfully expanded its share of spending among consumers under 40. The second is structural. The Ocado joint venture is a significant long-term commitment that requires Ocado's technology platform to remain competitive in a market where Amazon, Tesco, and other players have invested heavily in their own grocery delivery infrastructure. M&S does not control that technology. The strongest case in M&S's defense on these 2 points is that the brand is not trying to be everything to everyone, and that for the first time in approximately 2 decades it has a consistent answer to the question of who it is for. Stuart Machine stated in the company's May 2024 annual results presentation that M&S's goal is to be the UK's most trusted retailer, and that trust, in the company's definition, encompasses product quality, price clarity, service, and consistency across channels. That is a measurable ambition, and one the brand has at least partially delivered against in the period covered by this analysis. Verdict: Marks & Spencer is not the same business it was in 2016, and the evidence supports the view that the changes made over the intervening 8 years have been consequential rather than cosmetic. The food business has broadened its reach. The clothing range is simpler and better performing than it was, and the financial results in 2023 and 2024 reflect those changes in measurable terms. But the recovery has costs that the headline profit figures do not carry. The workforce is substantially smaller. The Ocado investment remains a significant exposure to technology the company does not own. And the clothing business has not yet demonstrated that it can attract a meaningfully younger customer at scale. What this means for customers who remember what M&S used to promise is that the core, compact quality you can rely on, at a price that feels fair, is more consistently delivered today than at any point in the past 15 years. Whether that is enough to sustain a business whose long-term relevance depends on renewing its customer base is the question the next decade will answer. If this helped you understand what changed, subscribe for evidence-led verdicts on the brands you know.